and really talking to them. Like you said, horses are really smart. So if you really talk, obviously they cannot speak back, but there are really different signals that if you spend a lot of time with a particular horse, you can really pick up on it and you can get to know how they're feeling. Of course, the sport has come a long way now in India, but earlier there was lack of proper infrastructure, there was lack of knowledge, lack of training facilities, and even suitable horses.
Welcome, Tejas. Welcome to the show. And thank you for taking up the time.
Thank you, Sujay. The pleasure is all mine, and thank you for having me over here.
I I believe we spoke about this when we were talking about this earlier as well. Unfortunately, so at this point in time, in the country we live in the landscape we live in, a lot of people are not aware of equestrian on the whole, and even less when it comes to show jumping. So let's start there if possible, and let's just educate a little bit.
Right, fair enough. And I think I get this from a lot of people, when
Yeah,
I tell them what I really do. The first question that they usually ask is, hey, what is equestrian? Uh,
yeah,
you know, so unfortunately or fortunately, India is a land which is synonym with cricket, I would say, since that's the most played sport that we have.
true.
Of course, other sports are also coming up now in the limelight, but equestrian still is nowhere to be seen. The word of the sport is on no one's radar till now. So, just a quick brief about what the sport is. Equestrian basically refers to sports involving horses. And equestrian itself has three subparts, and it has three Olympic disciplines under it, which include dressage, show jumping, and eventing. What I do personally is show jumping. And show jumping is essentially wherein the horse and the rider are given an obstacle course of 12 to 15 fences, which needs to be jumped in a chronological order without knocking or refusing any obstacle. And the horse and the rider combination, which jumps the entire obstacle course in the fastest time with the least number of knocks or penalties, is declared as the winner. Um, it showcases precision, athleticism, athletics, skill, and the bond between the rider and the horse. That's essentially what show jumping is in very layman terms.
Okay, great. So my question around this actually is more than the fact that people are not aware. Has there ever been a case, and I have seen this happen? I'm talking from experience at this point. Has there ever been a case where somebody's come to you and like, how is this a sport?
Yes, a lot of times, and in fact, most of the times, it's from my closest school friends who like to pull my leg.
Okay.
That this is not even a sport when horse is doing the most of the work.
Yeah.
Uh, to somewhat, and I somewhat agree to them. I strongly believe that horses are the true athletes in our sport. And I would say that 60% of the job is done by the horse and 40% is done by the rider. Again, coming back to simple terms, explaining Michael Schumacher wouldn't be Michael Schumacher if he didn't have a Ferrari,
Exactly. Exactly.
or
I was just
you
about to
know.
say that. Yeah.
So yeah, so our equipment over here is a horse. So it's very important that you have the top quality horses. You have a good bond with the horse,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, you are controlling 1,000 kg animal who has a mind, who has a heart of his or her own. Uh, so to build that trust is something that is really required from the rider side. I think that's where the rider really comes in to build that partnership.
Right. So how does one go about doing that then? The forming of the bond, making up that partnership, all of that. How, because at the end of the day, beautiful animals, actually very smart. A lot of people probably ignore that aspect. But how does a rider, how does an athlete go about forming that bond with a new horse?
Right. No, a very good question. In fact, I'm still learning how to get better at that. It's an everyday process. There are a few things that I can talk about what I really do to develop a bond with my horses. Of course, training is one part, but I really believe in spending time with the horses post training,
Mm.
which might be spending time with them at the stables, taking them out for a hack ride in the forest, making them see something very different, um, and really talking to them. Like you said, horses are really smart. So if you really talk, obviously they cannot speak back, but there are really different signals that if you spend a lot of time with a particular horse, you can really pick up on it and you can get to know how they're feeling. So it really essentially begins from grooming the horse, saddling up the horse, feeding the horse, uh, just spending as much time as you can at the stables with your horses, really observing them, because the horse might be very different at home and the horse might be very different at a competition.
Yeah.
So really knowing those aspects, and I think these are the some things which really help you create that bond. And once you have that really strong bond with your animal, with your partner, that's when they really fight for you, and that's what really makes it different at the competition. So it's a long process. It doesn't come overnight. It's just months and years of spending time with the horses and making sure that they get the best treatment possible.
And so from what from the way you're speaking about it, I know for a fact that there's a lot of love involved in the whole process as well. And I believe I read somewhere that your first love with horses began at a very, very young age. So I would love
Yeah.
to know more about that.
Yes. So just to give you a brief background, I do not come from a horse-related background, or my family has nothing to do with sports in that matter. Um, uh, my parents usually tell me it's probably to do something with my past life. But to give you the true facts, what I really believe in, I think
Yeah.
I was on a family holiday. We were when I was 4 years old.
Mm.
We were in Australia, and I clearly remember one of the days we had a tour planned, which entailed horseback riding. So that was my first interaction with the animal. That's the first time I saw horses, and I instantly fell in love with the animal. And the first time I went horseback riding in that forest, it just gave me this adrenaline rush, and I felt something in my body which I really loved. And even after returning home, that was the only thing I remember from the entire trip. And all I wanted to do post that was to just be around horses, and that's essentially how my journey started. And then I became that irritating kid who was always after my parents ki मुझे घोड़े के पास छोड़ दो, take me to this riding school, take me to that riding school. And that's how the journey really started. So yeah, I think the first time I saw horses was when I was on a family vacation, and there was no looking back from there.
Fair. So this is where the love for the horses started.
Yeah.
Where did the sporting side of things start?
uh okay, so I think the sporting really started. So 4 is when I loved being around horses, and
Mm.
that's when my let's say it became a passion or a hobby for me. Let's say I used to go for training once a week, twice a week, somewhere to some local club, and etc. I think, and then I also started taking part in some competition, but it was still a hobby for me. But I remember
Okay.
the turning point for me was in 2009
Yeah.
in Delhi. It was my first nationals,
Okay.
and I had qualified for those. It was the junior nationals, and at that time I never used to have my own hostel because even my parents weren't sure, will I take up the sport? Is it
Fair.
worth making the investment right now? So I always used to be on. That time we used to have these army horses, which we still do, since India is the only regiment with the cavalry right now.
Yeah.
So I used to be riding these army horses. I remember. Um, in 2009 in those nationals, I was given a horse. The name of the horse was Time to Win. I still remember, and I
Okay.
was given that horse on the day of the competition.
Okay.
So I had no prior exposure to that horse. No bond was created,
Right.
and I just got onto the horse and I won all my classes, and I was declared the best junior rider in my category. I think that was the moment when I realized, yes, I'm good at this, and maybe, and that thirst of winning really made me enjoy it even more. So I think that was the turning point, and I realized, okay, this has to be uh, my life now, because one, I like doing it, I like winning, and second, I'm good at it. So why not get proper training and take it forward from there?
Right. So, was there any moment during this journey wherein you're attracted to some other sport as well? Because winning as a habit and winning as a trait takes people to a lot of different avenues at times.
Right. So for passion, yes, but never any other sport that I would want to take up as a career that I've taken equestrian as.
Fair, fair.
So I play a lot of sports even when I'm not riding or I'm not working. In my free time, my weekends usually consist of me waking up, uh, playing a game of tennis, then playing a game of squash,
Oh,
and then going for riding. So
nice.
so so I like being really active. I like being really competitive in a lot of fields. Even if you play a board game with me, I'll be very competitive. I'm a very slow
Exactly.
loser.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I still try to work on that. But I think just the love of horses, the animal, and the winning combined put together, it was just a very wholesome feeling that I still get every day. So I
Right.
never really thought of switching sport to something else. Or probably I was not good at any other sport as good as I was at this.
But
So that could also be
again,
one reason.
once you fall in love with something, that it stays generally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, how difficult was it then coming up the ranks, coming through the system? Because again, unfortunately, we live in a landscape where not a lot of awareness. And how difficult is it even now? Because awareness is increasing, yes, but not exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Uh, so, fair question. I think, uh, of course, the sport has come a long way now in India, but earlier there was lack of proper infrastructure, there was lack of knowledge, lack of training facilities, and
Hmm,
even suitable horses
yeah,
for us to really learn on, and the resources were scarce. Uh, and unfortunately, this sport does require a lot of money, a lot of manpower, a lot of people involved to really take care of the entire paraphernalia around horses.
exactly.
So it was really difficult back then, but I think uh, the EFI, the Federation of India, right now, I think they've worked really diligently to address these challenges, and they've made strides in developing the proper infrastructure. They started holding more international competition. They started calling better
Hmm,
coaches, and a lot of private individuals also, they've really stepped up and they've tried to create some good facilities for the sport. So yes, the sport is definitely better now, but earlier it was very difficult, and I really have to say that I'm really lucky to have support from my coaches and especially from my parents,
yeah.
who really gave me the chance to one, venture into sport, and secondly a sport like equestrian. uh,
Hmm,
so I think I owe a lot to my family. I think without them it would have been very difficult for me to really reach the stage where I am right now. So I think they've also really uh, played the game, not on the pitch, but outside the pitch, equally as I have. So I think a lot is owed to them.
So I know it will be very difficult, but is there any way you can single out that one person who's been the biggest support throughout?
Uh, I wouldn't say single person, uh, uh, because at different stages of my career there have been different people who played a pivotal role. Um, so I would say it has to be my family and my mentors and my coaches all together. Unfortunately, I cannot single out on one
Fair,
person.
fair,
It won't
fair.
be fair to them,
Very fair.
and this is just being very honest to you over here. And uh, yeah, I mean, without each of their contributions, it wouldn't have been possible to achieve whatever I've achieved right now. So
So,
yeah,
no worries, no worries. That's why I said I know it'll be very difficult. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
a few months back, uh, second half of last year, Asian Games happened. You represented India. The first thing I want to know is what was the first reaction when you're like, okay, Asian Games, I'm going there.
Yeah. I think my smile can tell you the first reaction. Yeah. So the first reaction was I would say a sense of uh, satisfaction
Okay.
that yes, I finally made it here. Uh, so ever since I started writing, uh, and I think it's the case for most of the people who start writing in India
Hmm.
and who want to take up the sport professionally, I think the goal is to reach Asian Games. Um, and I think the journey to the Asian Games also wasn't very easy.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people don't know this, but I also tried for the 2018 Asian Games, but I did not make the team then. Uh, and eventually, there were a set of trials which were held in 2021 for the 2022 games, uh, which I made the qualification and I qualified, but the games got pushed to
Yeah.
2023 due to COVID.
Yeah.
And then we had a new set of trials, so I had to undergo again,
Okay.
redo the trials, and make it to the team again. Um, and then unfortunately, we had a third set of trials because we were told that the horses cannot fly from India and you'll have to go to Europe, uh, get a new horse and redo the trials and qualify again. Uh, so I did that as well.
How come? But what
So
was the issue with Indian horses? As in
So
going from
China is
India
really
to.
strict.
Ah,
Yeah, so China is really strict with their policies. For some reason they decided okay they're not comfortable taking horses from India due to the safety of other horses. So they took out a list of these are the countries where we will be accepting horses
of
from.
course.
So
Of
if
course
you
they did.
so if you want to take part in the games, you would have to fly out horses from one of these countries. Uh, so uh, we could not take our horses to those countries because that route was really long and it would have been very tiresome for our horses to take that route and then eventually reach China.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only option was to, hey, listen, go out, get new horses, qualify again on those new horses because it's a new combination, and then go to
Hmm.
China. So it was a 3 year long process where we were just giving the trials, qualifying, um, and then making it. Finally, when once the team was announced for the third time, we thought, okay, this
Yeah.
is it. And I still remember the three of us, my other two members in the team. We really did not believe that we made it till the time we were on the flight. Uh, once we sat on the flight, we were like, yes, finally we are going because every time we made a qualification, we were told to redo the trial. So of course, it was a sense of satisfaction, and we were like, okay, now we've got nothing to lose. Now let's just go there and enjoy. We worked really hard, and so the whole experience of the games was truly just a dream come true. And the donning those Indian colors was something that every athlete really dreams of. And hearing the national anthem, seeing your parents, your family, your coaches in the stands, and so that whole feeling really just gave me a lot of goosebumps. And till date, even when I think about it, I think
Yeah.
till date, every time before I go to bed, that's my last thought, imagining me over there. So the whole experience was just surreal and out of the world.
I'm just getting goosebumps listening to that because growing up, I'm like you said, every athlete, every sports person in India has dreamt of that. The donning of Indian colors.
Yeah.
Speaking of life post Asian Games, that high happened, that absolute high happened. How has it been after that? I mean, I know you've had good successes after that as well. First ever international gold you got, you became the national champion recently. How has life changed maybe after Asian Games?
Right. Uh, so it was definitely, just to answer that a little bit more in detail. It was definitely high for me when I reached at the games, but the result
Hmm.
was not as expected. So, like I said earlier, like I'm a sore loser. I'm very competitive. I like to win. So when the result did not go as planned, I was really upset. So post the games, I was in a really bad state mentally,
Hmm.
where it was a downtime for me because a lot of people had a lot of expectations from me, and more so, I had a lot of expectations from myself, which I could not live up to. Uh, so post the games, I did a lot of mental thinking, try to get stronger mentally, try to learn from the mistakes that I made at the games.
Hmm.
And the first time that I went into the ring again was in January 24, because we came back from the games in October 23,
Yeah.
and January 24 was the first time when I entered the competition again. And this competition was on FEI International, which was being held in India after almost 8 years, 7 or 8
Okay.
years. So
Okay.
it was in a sort the first international show being held in India, and I ended up winning the Grand Prix. Uh, Post that, in February, we had in Bangalore the national championships. Uh, it was a really tough competition,
Yeah.
but I think I was lucky that day, and we did end up winning that, and I became the national champion for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think both these wins was really important
Hmm.
for me, uh, and they were really special. I think till date they'll be the most special one, because every athlete, uh, they don't have a curve which always goes up. They always have
Yeah. Yeah.
ups and downs. For me, I was really unhappy because at the biggest stage in my life, I had probably one of my worst performances. So I was at my probably the lowest ever. Uh,
Hmm.
so to get these wins was really important, and it made me much stronger. Uh, and it validated again the years of hard work, dedication, and gave me the confidence again to probably aim even higher at international stages again. Yeah, I was really happy with those two wins.
So this is what I wanted to ask also, and I ask this to every athlete. Beautiful stage, Asian Games is happening. You're extremely unhappy with the performance, like you said. How does one pick themselves up after that period to get into the international and the national championship? Like winning and getting the confidence is great, no doubt. But to even get into that frame of mind, okay, I am going in to win it. That also takes a lot of effort, I'm sure. How does one go about doing that?
Right. Fair question again, and I think uh, that's what really separates uh, one champion from another. Because, in my opinion, I feel everyone works equally hard.
Yeah.
Everyone is dedicated. Everyone is patient. Everyone is putting in their best. But at the end of the day, what differentiates um the champion from the others is uh, the mental strength and the mindset that you currently
True.
are in that
True.
day,
True.
right? And I have really realized, and I've learned it the hard way, that the setbacks uh, and the losses and the disappointments are some of the greatest teachers.
Yeah.
uh, uh, each loss, whether it was at a local show, a national, international, or even at the games, I think it strengthened me mentally and taught me some valuable lesson, which
Hmm.
made me uh, ready for the next step. And I think losses is what makes victory sweeter. I think, as they say it, right?
Yeah, fair.
Um, and that's what makes the highs memorable, and they make it incredible. Uh, uh, but what is most important is you need to put your head down every day, even after you lose, and you say, "Listen, it's okay." You still need to be resilient. You still need to be positive, and you need to understand that losing is part of the game. You need to enjoy the journey. As
Yeah,
long as you're committed, you're consistent, and you're putting in the hard work each and every day, the result will come. For some people, it might come tomorrow. For someone, it might take a year. But
yeah.
the result will be there as long as you're true to yourself. So
That's
I've learned
true.
this the hard way. But yeah,
I don't think there's any easy way to learn this. To be very honest, uh, life throws a lot of curveballs, and like you said, an athlete's life will go like this, and ideally it should, because
yeah,
if it's only, I think I mentioned it earlier as well. We did an interview with Mr. Deepak Huda, who was the uh, Kabaddi team's captain at that point in time. So this he said very beautifully. Is like life has to be like this, because if it's a straight line, that means you're dead.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh,
So
very fair. Yeah,
exactly. So how does one deal with the highs then? You spoke about dealing with the lows.
yeah.
How do you go about dealing with the
Uh,
highs?
uh, so I would say enjoy it, let it sink in. It's very important to enjoy those wins. It's important to make those victories memorable, uh, but don't let it get to your head. Uh, you won a championship, great. Uh, you want to take an off for a week. But the eighth day, you come back and you practice like you've never won before. So I think because if you continue on that high tide, um, then that there's always going to be someone or the other who's going to be working much harder than you, and in the next competition they will come ahead of you, and then it will
Yeah,
become even harder for you to bounce back.
yeah,
So it's very important to stay grounded and always, uh, enjoy it, embrace it, but then again, come back to ground zero and
yeah.
start again.
Fair.
So I think that's the best way to enjoy the highs, and that's what will make the high even better. Every time
Exactly.
you win and then you come back to ground zero, and then if you win again, it just makes it more fun.
Yeah, true. Very true. One last question. I'll let you go. I believe I've already taken a lot of your time. Um,
Go on.
what next? What are the next goals you've set for yourself?
Right. So how I like to define goals is one, I have short term, mid term, and long term, and I like to segregate it into very short term. My perpetual goal is improve myself every single day. Uh, that is a goal that whenever I go training, um, I need to get better by 1%. That's something that I follow diligently. Um, if you want to talk about a slightly like a mid-term goal or a short-term goal, I think next year we have the Asian Championships which are coming up in 2025. So that's something that I have my eyes on.
Hmm.
So preparing for that. A slightly longer term goal would be again in 2026 in Japan, the Asian Games. So yes, trying to work towards that. The training has already started. It started yesterday. So working towards that as well. And yeah, I mean, and just trying my best to somehow develop the sport a little bit more, because we
Hmm.
need to increase participation. We need to get more sponsorship in. Um, because this sport has a lot of potential in India, and we proved by winning the first ever gold
Yeah.
in dressage at the games this time. So we need more people coming in. We need more eyeballs. We need more sponsors really coming in and supporting the young talent, and directing them in the correct direction. I think then the sport can really develop and win more medals and laurels for the country.
Right.
So yeah, these are my goals for now.
Great. Great. I think this should be it for now. We'll do this again, I'm very sure, if you enjoyed it, because
Of
I
course.
absolutely loved speaking to you and knowing more about you and the sport. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I know it's a very busy schedule and the trainings have already started. So, but I hope you enjoyed it.
No, no, I loved it, and thank you so much for having me. And more than happy to do this as per your availability. And next time, I will make sure that I am available when you message me,
No, next time we'll do this
because
in
it was a
person.
pleasure.
Next time we'll do this in
Done,
person. I'll come down and
done,
meet you. I'm pretty much your neighbor right now. I'll
yeah,
come down and meet you sometime.
done, 100%. Thank you so much for having me, Sujay. Pleasure.
Thank